two, one.
Good morning. Welcome to Hometown Heroes. This is Rick Irving and our my co-host Mary Staffeld. And Mary, we have a
Morning.
great guest today. So tell us about our guest.
Well, I think most people know Taco Bell. So when we say his name, sometimes you say Mitch Bell, they're like, who? Because they're so used to hearing Taco Bell. But Mitch is not only a roll call member, but a Marine. And he's got that whole story. And we've had Mitch on before. That whole story about how that came to be is just really, to me, pretty incredible. But you did something really special recently and involved one of our really good friends, Mr. Don Graves,
And Al.
and a whole
Al Chapin.
Al Chatwin. We
Chatwin.
actually had, I think we had 7 or 8 because Warren Morrison went with a different group. We had Charlie Braun, we had Bill Kelly, and for those listening, Bill Kelly is back home. So they released him from the hospital a few days ago. I know we talked about him last week, that when he returned from the trip to Normandy for the 80th, he fell ill, had pneumonia, and was in the hospital for several days. But he is home. He's doing good. He'll be 104 in September, so we're looking forward to that. But we had quite a group of roll call vets that were there with different organizations. But Mitch went with American Airlines, of course, which makes a lot of sense since you work for American Airlines.
The A
So
team.
Mitch is here. Yes, Mitch is here today to tell us about this fabulous event that he participated in.
Well,
so Mitch, take it away.
Take it away. So, an amazing deal. Randy Stillinger, who is head of Veterans Initiatives for American, he made several trips over there, and this planning process started, I believe, about 2 years ago for him. As you can imagine, it is not easy to transport 70 vets, their caretaker, whoever they brought with them, along with a medical team, support team, and everybody else. You just can't get a Marriott over there next to St. Mary Glees. They have hotels, but they're spread out. So we were spread out. We had 7 buses. We had 50 cadets from the different academies, Air Force, Naval Academy, West Point, Merchant Marine Academy. Can't forget those guys. And we had one Coastie. She was my favorite. She was so awesome. So we had one Coast Guard representing. And those folks, when he first said we're bringing the glee clubs of all these concert clubs, I thought, really? That's kind of like, that's a lot of dead weight to have all those kids. What are they going to do? Holy cow. Those kids' voices, I mean, they all practice all these songs, and within their own groups, they had quartets, and they had, just every song from all generations from the 40s. And they would just start singing. And you had 50 kids in harmony, just beautiful voices. And they would just stop what they were doing, start singing, and everybody would move over, start videotaping. It was really moving to have these kids. Plus, it was really nice having a lot of extra help. Those kids are young and strong, so when we needed help, those kids were there. Can't say enough if those kids ever watch this, or if you have a parent that their kid participated on this. Your kids were phenomenal. Not only did they get to go meet all of these vets. Now the vets, I'll caveat this. We had all World War II vets, but they were veterans from all campaigns. And I think we had 4 people that were actually, D-Day, D-Day plus 30, that had come in and made it all the way to Bastogne and stuff like that. The actual veterans of Omaha and Utah are very, very, very far and few anymore nowadays. I mean, the youngest, I believe, was 98. The oldest vet we had was around 107. So
Wow.
Randy's primary factor on this whole trip was the care and well-being of our veterans. And in every sense, it was first class for these guys. It was great. We chartered a 787, flew it from Dallas over to Paris, and we spent 2 days in Paris where they were able to. Oh, there's had a lot of the vets. Now, the crazy thing is, um, even though it was, we had them up in first class, that was nice, but their caretakers or the medical team or the different caretakers, it was difficult for the flight crew. I know that as the flight attendants were trying to do, we had flight attendants trying to do their service. We had folks up and down and constantly taking them to the bathroom, and um, that was definitely a busy time flying over. And we flew over to Paris, got in. When we arrived in Paris, they brought us in a unopened terminal, so we had our own customs. We just literally walked through. They were so gracious, stamped our passports right on out into the lobby. Well, we get out into the lobby, and everybody in France, they're all lined up. These are a lot of embassy personnel and locals from Paris, Americans and French, that were lined up out there to greet all of the veterans as they came through when we first arrived. And then you can see them. Now we had everybody in a wheelchair just because, I mean, a lot of them were, even the 107-year-old could get up and walk, but you didn't want to tire them out and wear them out just walking needlessly. So we had them all in wheelchairs, and we would push them through everywhere with the wheelchairs. And then the buses, we would stack them underneath the bus and fold up. And then we would have the cadets, as soon as the buses pulled up, cadets pull the wheelchairs out, veterans would get off, get into a wheelchair. The ambassador came over and spoke. That's Jim Taylor and Brett Sablasky. Let's see, and General Brady in the background. So we had 5 Medal of Honor recipients, but we had Flo Groberg, who he is French. He was staying with family and friends and stuff.
That was good because he could talk to the people from France in their native language, and then
Oh, he did. I've got a video of him when we were arrived there in Paris, and it was beautiful because here's this guy just talking like you and me, English, American English, just sitting there shooting the bull, and all of a sudden he switches up and he's right into French, and you could tell everybody just lit up as he spoke. He spoke a couple different times. He spoke at the airport. He spoke at one of the I think Point to Hawk, or he spoke at one of the places. Unfortunately, I missed that one. I think because I was doing some logistics. And he spoke at the Arc de Triomphe. We had a big deal there, which was kind of funny. But yeah, having him aboard, we had numerous speakers with us, so that helped out a lot. I will say this first and foremost, that I have never been treated better in any country in the world, and I've been to 55 different countries. I've never been treated better than we were treated on that whole trip. It was amazing, guys. I mean, the amount of American flags as you're just driving through the countryside, the amount of American flags that were flying, French and American flags, just in
That's
people's
what Don
houses.
said. Don said it's shocking that he said you can't get house after house after house here to fly an American flag, but there every house has American and a French flag on it. He's just been blown away. That was his second time there last year and this year, and both times he's just been amazed.
Yeah, it was spectacular. I'll tell you a story about. So we broke away from the group. Tracy Hunter came up to me and said, "Hey, we want to." There's Tracy, and hey, look who's there.
Liberty.
Liberty. So so this is funny. That's at the mayor's house at St. Mary Glees, right? The mayor she has this big party every year um, for all the people. And behind where the pictures, that's the mayor's house. So behind whoever's taking the photo, there was a tent. They had a tent where you can go get beer and whatnot. And I'm talking to the mayor, and I said, "Mayor, I have to ask. I don't see any porta potties. Is there a bathroom around here?" And she goes, "Oh yes, it's behind that tent there." And I thought, okay, have porta potties or whatever. It was the cleverest thing. You literally walked back there, and they had posts up with dark plastic, and it had a men's symbol. And you walked behind that, and you just went over and peed in the bushes on the hedge. And they had a little table that you could sandy wipes. Um, that was so funny. But everybody was there. I got to meet Captain. Um, oh, from Band of Brothers. You know the
Oh, Captain Haldane, Scott Gibson.
no, not
Oh,
not Scott. Scott was there. No, the Winters, Captain Winters. His son was there, Dick Winters Jr., who was also a very decorated veteran, Vietnam veteran. Uh, just a neat guy. So that was neat talking to him. Scott Gibson, of course, a friend of our show and just an amazing guy.
yeah.
Scott was there with another group, and they brought They brought a veteran with them. They were also going to do. Scott was going to go jump with a bunch of these guys that had been extras in the TV show The Band of Brothers. And I looked at Scott and I go, Scott, you and I are about the same age. We're not 25 anymore. You jump out of that stinking airplane, it's a round chute. I mean, I've been skydiving with square chutes, sports chutes. You're in a round chute, just like they had back then. You're coming down like a sack of potatoes. Dude, you break a leg, bust an ACL, whatever, you're out. You can't work. Do you have insurance? Well, it's Canadian. We have free insurance. Well, good on you, buddy. But
Yeah,
the pain and suffering is not worth it.
right.
Not to me. We don't repair ourselves as well as we did. And Scott took that advice and he didn't do it. And somebody
That
went
was
over there
smart.
and busted his knee up, right?
Ah,
But you got a picture of all of us, Dawn and Al, and there's a bunch of us sitting. People, yeah, right there. So that's the Black Rifle Group. Matt Best and all those guys. Tim Kennedy is kneeling next to Dawn. Tim Kennedy, who is the um, you ever watch Hunting Hitler and all that? He's like a famous dude, MMA guy, incredible podcast. I love listening to him on podcast. And then back behind him in that white shirt, that's Jack. And then Kevin, and there was another guy that went with us.
yeah, Jack
Jack,
was with us at Pearl Harbor.
yeah, Jack is the funniest frigging guy I think I've ever met. He was a Marine. Um, they did that video where they go things that Marines don't say. I'm unplug that video. It's so funny. Black Rifle Company. Look up things Marines don't say, and it's all these things. And he's at the end. He's sitting there, and he's like, "Who the hell's Chesty Puller?" It's a Marine thing, I guess. Anyway, those those guys took us out, so we hung with them, went to the mayor's house, and then we took those guys to a bar called the Stop Bar in St. Mary Glease. Now, you got to understand, St. Mary Glease, there are thousands of people walking around in World War II uniforms. Thousands. There are, I lost count on how many World War II Jeeps and military vehicles and trucks and stuff that I saw over there. But there were thousands, first of all, picture this thousands of people walking around in World War II uniforms, and none of them speak English. They were from all over Europe. I mean, they come down from Belgium, from wherever. They were all there, and then you had all the civilians, everybody else. So I would estimate there must have been 7 to 10,000 people in this area, and it's right next to the church where Private Steele had his parachute when he floated down, got caught on the steeple or one of the steeples on the side of the church. And the Germans were shooting anybody that was hanging in trees and stuff. So he just played possum for a couple hours And the Germans finally, after they got done, they said, "Let's go up there and get this guy's body off the church." And they climbed up and pulled poor Steele up, and then realized he was quite alive. And they didn't kill him, so they made him a POW. But then he ended up escaping, getting back to his unit, and receiving the Bronze Star, Combat V, and all the other stuff. Going back and fighting the Germans. Interesting story. But that town. So we get Scott set it up with the guy from the Band of Brothers, because they were having some band deal where they were playing on stage in front of everybody, and they got Don and Al up there, and the place went nuts. And Don, he sang "God Bless America," and it was the best rendition I have ever heard him sing. He was on pitch, on key, just perfect. And I actually videotaped that, and he's like, "Hey, everybody, sing with me." And unfortunately, I mean, he's really good. And then you hear my sorry ass in the background trying to sing, just because you can't help it. You can't help but not sing with
Right.
him. And I didn't realize my microphone the camera was flipped around. I didn't think it would pick me up. So, if you listen to that on my thing, yeah, I don't sing as well as Don. So they went absolutely nuts, and we got Don and Al back at. They probably got back about 11:30 that night. They were two whip pups. I'll tell you that. The next day, though, and you know what was funny was hanging out with them was like hanging with two of the Beatles, literally being a Mitch Bell strap hanger with the Beatles. We walked into this bar, just to show you. We go into the bar. Everyone parts like the ocean to let Don and Al get through. They stand up. They get over, and we get a table, and they sit down. We fold the wheelchairs up, and I go to the bar, and I go, 8 beers. And the guy pours these beers, and I pull my credit card out and hand it to him, and he looked at me and said, "Nope, merci beaucoup, thank you." Grab the beers and go over there and hand them out. We get another round, hand him the credit card. "Let me pay this time." He's like, "No." Okay. I mean, we were, it was literally like hanging out with the Beatles. Everybody wanted their autograph. Everybody that had a kid would come up and stand next to him to take a photo with him. There were tons. I mean, hundreds of kids in uniform. Like, I don't know where they get these things. They manufacture the reproduction uniforms, and they've got the helmet. They've got a 45 on their hip. They got a cigarette hanging out of their mouth. I mean, they were cool. It was really neat. But hanging with them.
A few years ago, I took Don with Mark Donahue, and we took him to Pensacola for several days. And every place we'd go, if they would have drinks, they say, "Oh, this couple over here, they just bought that round, and the next round, and the next round, this couple and this couple." No.
Yeah, you lose track. How many beers did I have tonight?
And it doesn't matter where you go. You go with Don, and somebody's going to pay your tab on Whataburger or restaurant. And
yep.
So
yeah,
he's a good fellow to hang with.
He is. He is George Harrison. No, he'd be Paul McCartney.
And he's like the Energizer Bunny. A couple of years ago, I took him to South Texas to a ranch down there, and there was a lot of Marines down there. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, all the Marines want to have shots with him. 1 o'clock in the morning, he was doing tequila shots. And I thought, that guy's not going to be up in the morning. And he beat me up, and I get up early. So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Hey, what was the name of the B-24 guy that was the POW?
Fisk Canley.
Fisk.
B-29. Wasn't it?
Yeah, he was B-29. Got shot down. Fisk was like that. Fisk was the Energizer Bunny, too.
Oh, yeah.
He liked his.
There's some stories we can't tell.
We just got Don settled over at the Benbrook American Legion. There's a film crew and doing a documentary from Tokyo, and I'll be heading that way here shortly to get him. But he settled in over there, and one of the pictures that he brought was of the kamikaze that Fisk always talked about. that they ended up being really good friends.
Yeah.
Bill, gosh, I can't remember his last name. But that's the one that, Fisk always talked about how they ended up meeting up later. But, Don talks about him a lot too, because they knew each other real well. So he brought a picture of him so that this film crew could see that picture, because they were doing a thing on a photojournalist and the occupation of Japan. And Don was in Japan for the occupation after he left Iwo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
God, I didn't know that. I thought he went back, he was done. But no, they would have been gearing up for the Battle of Okinawa. Well, no, they did. Did he do Okinawa? No, he didn't. He wouldn't have done
No,
Okinawa. He was
no, he
getting
didn't
geared
go
up
to
for
Oakland.
the invasion of Japan, mainland. Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
he
that's
went
right.
back to Hawaii, didn't he? And then he was training for the invasion of Japan.
Yeah. Yeah, they were gonna go do that. Because I was
Yeah.
just thinking, my mentor, missioner, they left Iwo Jima and they went back to Hawaii. Yeah.
And you spent a lot of time in Iwo, didn't you? I mean, you
I
went
did.
there and set up for the annual time when people can visit, but you were there.
I was there for the 50th anniversary of Iwo Jima in '95. And so for me to be able to say I've been to Iwo Jima for the 50th and I've been to Normandy now for the 80th, that's two giant, hallmarks in my life, I would say.
Yeah.
Getting married to
Especially
Teresa
for a Marine.
and attending that. Yeah. Yeah. Militarily, that I would say attending those two different events was a life goal. I mean, I did the was it the 50th Pearl Harbor as well. Yeah, we did the 50th at Pearl Harbor.
And you were
Yeah.
on you were on active duty then, weren't you?
Yeah, I was flying C-130s. So we
Okay.
flew all the gear into the island. We staged 2 weeks prior to the event. So we brought all the equipment and all the generators and the food and, tables and chairs and everything that they needed, we brought out. So we flew out there, but I had a lot of downtime, so I was able to go caving and, find some stuff.
Some artifacts. You found a hospital, didn't you?
Yeah, the hospital was actually the Seabees they had a big bulldozer and they were cutting this section out to be able to and put tents and make it flat and not rocky. And the corner of the blade knocked in this big hole when it went through this mound of dirt and side of a hill. And inside that hole was a medical cave with 30 dead Japanese. So they were mummified. They got trapped in there. I guess the other side of the cave had collapsed, and so they were trapped in there. And I often wonder if the letters from Iwo Jima was also a combination of stuff that they found, because those guys had written letters. They knew they were going to die, and they'd written letters, and they had them.
Wow.
So that was interesting.
We mentioned Al Chatwin, and I was surprised a couple of years ago. I went to a birthday party for him, and Teresa, your wife, was there, and her family grew up with Al's family. So
Yes,
they've been friends for years.
yeah. So my wife, I mean, Al lived out here by us, and they knew. My wife grew up with his daughter, and I think she served him at the country club as well. She was a waitress at the local country club there at Eagle Mountain Lake, and that's how they knew Al. And I got to say that looking at pictures of him from back then, he has never changed. He always has a smile, and he's always happy. And Teresa said he was always that way back when she was a kid. Just a happy-go-lucky guy to be around. Just exudes that positive vibe, and you just want to be around him because he's so much fun. But Al, when he got home, he fell and busted his arm up.
He has an implant in his shoulder, and he broke his shoulder. So they're
Yeah.
hoping that that's going to heal. I was there when he went home, so he didn't have to stay in hospital too long. He went home the second day, but he has they're hoping that it heals so they don't have to do surgery, because otherwise they have to explant, I think is the word they used. And that's a whole other mess for a guy his age. But
Is
he's
he
got a trip
98?
coming up in September to Guam, and he's got Pearl Harbor in December. So, and this is a great flyer for the trip. And if anybody out there that's listening, wants to help get him to Guam, Beyond the Call is where you make those donations, and that's on that flyer. But yeah, I said when he was getting ready to leave, I said, now, Al, you got to do everything the doctors tell you, because I know you got 2 trips you really, really, really want to go on.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the Black Rifle, big plug to those guys. The Black Rifle Company gave them $25,000 donation
for this trip coming up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. For this trip. So
they're a great supporter of veterans and military and veteran organizations.
Yeah, and that the connection with them is through Tracy.
Right.
That she's like you, Mary. She's like you and Rick and everybody on steroids. I've never seen somebody that works so hard and takes care of so many people. She's like you guys on steroids. You all are all the same cut of cloth, man. I love it. Yeah. So it was an amazing time. There were a couple people that were really moved when we got to the beach and had never been there. I had never been there myself. My observation of Normandy, when you watch the movies, you don't get the sense of the terrain, the topography. I didn't realize how hilly it is there. You guys ever been there?
I'm going to go with Dwayne Lee on his small group tour. I'm going to go next year.
Yeah, that would be the way to do it.
Yeah, so it's a lot smaller group. You really get to experience it.
Yeah, you get to see more. If I was able to take some side tours near Omaha Beach, there was a museum, and then there was fields with all of these guys in uniform bivouacked out in the old 1940s tents. They've got the old tents and giant mess halls. I mean, they really go to town. Oh, in our hotel, I'm looking at this beautiful restored Willys Jeep with a 50 on it. And I'm like, man, this is nice. And the guy comes out and I go, where are you from? He goes, oh, I'm from Germany. And he's dressed as an American sergeant. And I'm like, hey, Mitch Bell, call me Taco. He goes, hi, Taco, I am Wolfgang. I'm like, wie geht's? Ganz gut? Yeah, yeah, yeah. The weather was very good driving down there from Germany. Yes, very nice. And I'm like, why are you dressed as an American? He goes, because it's not cool to be German in World War II. Everybody likes American stuff. It's very cool. I'm like, no, that's cool. So,
Tell us about this picture.
All right. So when we went to the cemetery, of course, if you have a family member there, the other picture you have with a guy, me standing next to a guy, and Claude Moore. Claude Moore is the cousin, my roommate Jack Massey from school. His mom became Yvonne Christopher became like my second mom, and Yvonne and Sam Christopher, and that is Yvonne's cousin who died in July of 44. So I went up and I said, "Hey, I'm looking for a marker," and he goes, "Is it family?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's my cousin Claude." But joke about it is about as close as to being family here. But he says, "Oh yeah," and he looks him up and he goes, "Let's go." I'm like, "Where is it? How far away?" And he said, "Oh, it's just right up here." So he takes us up there, and what he does is he takes the wet sand from the beach. They mix it with water, and they'll take this sand from the beach and they'll rub it into the face of the cross, into the marker, and then he takes a sponge and he just kind of cleans it off, so the sand stays inside of the marker. It's really neat. And when you're walking around, you see any of the markers that stand out like that. Those were markers where a family member had come to visit, and they give you 2 flags, but the uh, the flags were already in every grave site. They put an American and French flag. But Claude took care of us with that, and then to the right of that photo, you can see some people lined up. Right, they've got this giant area, chairs you could sit in, and every 100 feet they had a giant TV, big, large TV, and way, way, way. I mean, it was a ways up there. Was the stage where all the vets were. Now, the crazy thing about this day was where we were in the shade right there. It was freezing cold. The ocean air coming up and then hitting the cliff and then coming over. It was in the shade, freezing cold. And so I ended up having our 3/4 zip deal and then a jacket with a hood because it was cold. And a lot of people would get up where we were sitting to the right there. All the chairs were to the right in that photo. People would just get up and they'd move over into the sun just to warm up. Now, if you got into the sun, it was the weirdest deal. It was super hot. I mean, like sweaty hot. And then you get in the shade and you're freezing. There was just no nice balance. It wasn't like you get in the shade and like, oh, this is nice. I felt really bad for our vets and all the vets that attended because they got them up on stage early. They had a private meeting. They got to meet Tom Hanks and all that. A handful were able to meet President Biden and Macron. The president of France arrived 45 minutes late, and the Secret Service and the French Secret Service and all that, they wouldn't let the guys get up and go to the bathroom. It was a really kind of a crappy deal, if you ask my opinion. But
yeah, that's hard to do to a World War II. That somebody 100 years old is no.
They should have had bathrooms right off stage. They
Right.
They didn't have a TV for them to like we were watching what was happening, so there was they couldn't hear what was going on. I mean, as people were talking or doing their stuff, that was getting blasted out to everybody out there. They're just they just all kind of were just kind of sitting here like looking out like, hey, I guess hi, you know. And Randy thought about this ahead of time. He goes, we're going to get blankets made for these guys, and thank God they did because all the people that were in the shade were freezing, so they were wrapped up in their blankets, so they were good. And all the people that were in the sun were like shedding their stuff. Yeah, there's that D-Day blanket, exactly. So that was hats off to Booch who did all of our swag, and you can buy any of this stuff like this shirt and the blankets and the 3/4 zip fleece liners. Our swag guy, his nickname's Booch. He and his wife came along on the trip, and they made all of that stuff up for us, which was kind of cool. Okay, all right. So everything that we have has AA on the sleeve here on the right side. We got the American flag on the left side. Do you know that guy Donnie that runs Best Defense?
Yep.
Have you ever worked with him on anything?
Yeah, I worked with him on the 80th for Pearl Harbor. I got a bunch of vets for him.
Kind of Donnie ego,
Yes.
I mean, I get it. The guy's in charge of his deal, but
Former football player.
Yeah, old football player.
Yeah.
He's very good at social media. So when all of the vets came on the stage and they would stand up to shake President Biden's hand, he was the guy, not the caretaker like we just let our guys take care of their vet. He was standing behind each guy to stand up to shake. So he was in the picture. And he put the Delta or the Best Defense logo on the opposite side. So when they all wheeled on, they wheeled on stage left so everybody could see the American. It was like, yeah, American, woo! And then they left 2 of their vets. I'm going to tell it. I'm telling it right now. They left 2 of their vets behind. They didn't do a head count, and they got on their buses before everybody else. We had to wait almost 5 hours for the buses to be
Man.
released to come pick all of us up. And we were constantly wheeling them to the bathroom and taking care of them. Donnie got all of his people on all the buses because he sprinkled veterans amongst all the buses, where we had 2 buses just for the veterans. And the presidential movements required that the French shut down the whole countryside. You couldn't drive anywhere. Donnie got his buses in, but then he left 2 vets, so they didn't do a good head count. So bad on you, man. Bad on you. Never leave a man behind.
I hope Jack Stowe wasn't one of those, because that's who Jack Stowe went with.
Yeah, I had to laugh about that. But no, they brought a couple. They brought a bunch over. We had a bunch. I would say the 2 organizations had the most,
Yeah.
and then there were lots of other veterans that attended. There was Barney Barnum, Medal of Honor recipient. He was there. He had come with a ship, so they were right offshore. Their cruise ship was offshore, and then they came in. Yeah, there's Barney. I first met Barney when I was a second lieutenant, and we had a mess night. Now imagine, he is a lieutenant colonel. He's got the Medal of Honor around his neck like that, and with his dress blues. And he says, "Hey, what are you lieutenants doing after the mess night?" And sir, we're going to get, we're doing carrier quals where you get beer all down the hallway, and you're pretty drunk, and you run down and slide down, and you try to catch the sheets. They roll the sheets up, and you try to use your feet to catch the sheets like a carrier. Get which wire you're catching. He was doing that. He took off his dress blues top, and he had the medal around his neck, and he was doing carrier quals in his white shirt and the medal. We're like, "Sir, can you take that off? We'll, hold it for you." And he goes, "Nah, shit. If I bust it up or lose it, I'll just get another one." I mean, he's a funny guy. So he, big heart. When I started the Summer Leadership Character Development Academy up at Quantico, and built that program, I called Barney because he lives right there by Stafford. And I said, "Barney, would you come be one of the key speakers to these high school kids?" And he did it every year for years. He was just, yeah, a tremendous man, valuable time, and he would, awesome resource, go out and speak with our youth. Amazing guy. I mean, you know the story on that guy?
No.
So he was a first lieutenant. I think he's an arty guy. And he gets into Vietnam. He's only been in Vietnam 3 days, and they go out on this big giant mission. So here's a company, and he's the spotter. What do you call him? Like a FAC. He's the arty guy. Somebody will get in the comments and say what I'm looking for, the word. But everybody gets killed. CO gets killed. XO gets killed. OPSO gets killed. Everybody gets killed, and he's like a company against a battalion, 2 battalions of NVA, and they're getting their butts handed to them. And Barney runs over and grabs the radio off the dead operator. He doesn't know any of the Marines. He doesn't know anyone. And he gets on the radio and was like, "Hey, this is Lieutenant Barnum. Sir, everybody's dead." And the guy goes, "Well, Lieutenant, you're in charge. You lead these men." He's like, "Roger that, sir." So then he switches freaks and he goes over onto the arty freak and he goes, "I need fire. I need fire, blah, blah, blah. Here's the coordinates." And the guy goes, the old, "Well, sir, authenticate whiskey, Charlie, Bravo, Bravo, Echo, whatever the code was for that day, so that the enemy couldn't call fire on you, right?" And Barney goes, "I don't have the damn code. The radio operator's dead. Everybody's dead. I do not have the code." He goes, "Well, sir, I can't give you the fire you want without you authenticating the code." And Barney just launched in this tirade I can't say on the show, but it was, "Listen up here, Marine, you son of a blank blank, and if you don't got blank 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 and do this blank blank and I make it out of here, I'm going to find you. When I do, I'm going to rip your head off and I'm going to fuck my blank blank blank." And the guy goes, "Roger that, whiskey, Charlie, Bravo, Bravo, Oscar, authenticated, fire for effect." And the guy started launching rounds. And then once they repelled the attack, I mean, it's an amazing story. Once they repelled the attack, then the VC were beaten back, weren't going to overrun them. They had to get the wounded out. Well, the helicopters were like, "Hey, we're not coming in there. That's a hot LZ." Barney has the radio on his back. He's up on this ridge, exposed to bullets whizzing by him, right? And he's just walking back and forth on the ridge, and he's looking up at the helicopter, and he points at him, and he's on the radio and says, "If I can stand up on this goddamn ridge, you can land your friggin' helicopter." And they're like, "Oh, okay." Well, they come down, ping, 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 ping. They're getting all shot up. But he got more bullets, and he got the wounded on there and got them out. But it was a very hot LZ, as Barney would say. But he's an amazing guy. So imagine being in Vietnam for 3 days, and you get the nation's highest award for bravery. Of course, you don't get to stay there. Pull him out. So some general, after he gets the Medal of Honor, a bigwig 3-star says, "You're going to be my aide." Nobody wants to be a general's aide.
Yeah.
But Barney's like, "All right, sir." And he goes, "Listen, I'll tell you what, Barney. You do me this solid, and you're my aide for a year. After a year, I'll give you whatever job you want. I will make sure you get whatever job you want." And he says, shakes hands, and he says, "I'll take you up on that, sir." So at the end, he says, "I want to go. All right, what do you want to do?" And he goes, "I want to go back to Vietnam and be a company commander." "Well, we can't do that. You're a Medal of Honor recipient. We don't send recipients back into battle." He goes, "Sir, you promised me that I could have any job I want, and I want to be the, company commander of whatever battery in Vietnam now." And so they did. They sent him back, and he went back to Vietnam one more time. Just an amazing guy.
Goodness.
They
Yeah.
probably had Barcelona on the mind, because
Yeah. That was a big reason, right?
Yeah.
Barcelona, giant figure from Guadalcanal, and then he goes and gets killed on Iwo Jima.
Right there at Baigon.
Yeah, that was a blow. I mean, everybody thought he was invincible, but unfortunately, that was his time.
Yeah.
And we try to preserve our guys.
How many Medal of Honor recipients do you think you've been with? I'm sure you've been with at least 50 or 60 of them.
Over the years?
Over the years?
I'd have to count my coins up, to be honest with you. Over the years, I've had the honor of working with maybe 45 or 50 of the living recipients. Yeah.
You've had several on your podcast.
Yeah. Had Bob Patterson not too long ago. We're taking Bob up Oshkosh next month, and I think David Bellavia is going to go. David Bellavia was on our trip too, and also Haynes, Sergeant Major Haynes.
And you did a great job at the interview you did with David Bellavia at the museum that day.
Oh, thanks. I wish I had better equipment, first of all. And it was last minute. They told me that it was going to be professionally taped. So at the last minute, I thought, I'll bring my laptop just in case, I can do a side interview. And then I get there, and the AV guy, of course, is like, "Shoot, our thing's down. We can't get it to work." And I wanted to tape that so badly. Now, David, I've known David for years. We had a thing called mill bloggers. We were all over in the war, and we were all writing stories. And the stories were a combination of therapy, and then also to allow people to know what was going on. I mean, firsthand from people that were over there. And so that's where I met David, probably in 2007, 2008. We would have a conference, and all the people that had websites would get together. My website was called thesandgram.com. It's still out there. I don't post anything really on there. It's just more historical, and I pay the money to keep it up. But David was with a very large group of renowned writers and people that would, document what was going on. And so then when he got the Medal of Honor, it was really cool with all of us, being his friends. We're all friends with him before he got the medal. And he was telling his wife, we were over there, he's like, "Yeah, I love hanging out with Taco," because I've known him for years before, I got the medal, because I think, a lot of them, when they get the medal, all of a sudden they have newfound friends. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's fun being around them, and it's just like we were back a decade ago.
I was looking on your LinkedIn, and you said you were a connector of people. And I'll just give you an example of how you connected people. We were at the Dallas Cowboy football game a couple of years ago, and we're talking about Helicopters for Heroes. I said, I sure would like to get involved with them. And you picked up your phone, dialed the number, and and all of a sudden I'm talking to the founder of Helicopters for Heroes, to Phil, and you said, hey, Phil, this guy wants to start taking pictures at your event. And you handed me the phone, and that's how I met Phil.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. That's
so
everybody's got a Rolodex, right?
yeah.
And well, young kids don't know what the hell a Rolodex is, but every everyone's got a contact list that has. That's how I started the podcast. I thought, you know what? I know a bunch of really cool people, and I've got their phone numbers in the phone. Let me see if they'll talk to me. And that's the whole idea behind the podcast, because I had Scott Gibson was my very first guest, but we tried it Facebook Live and it didn't work. And then Dale Dye was my second guest, and I started using StreamYard, which I got you hooked up with.
Yeah.
And then my third guest was Don Graves. So that's how that whole thing started. But yeah, no, when you were there, well, first of all, your photos, the way that you take photos, you don't do a hey, get together and get a photo. You're a sneaky little ninja bastard, and
Yeah.
I might have just have a beer up to my lips, and you just snap, and you get a good shot. But you take the best photos of people, and I don't know the composition that you would call that, but they're solo or a group interacting with one another, and they're brilliant. So the lighting and everything that you do, Rick, I've always been so amazed. And I'll tell you this: my daughter is getting into photography, and
Well, I need to help her out. So
yeah, well, you know what? I used to have my old Canon FTB um, camera, and I had given it to my oldest daughter. She was up at University of Richmond in the art program. So my other daughter, Susan, she goes, "Dad, I wish you hadn't given Amber that camera." And I go, "Yeah, I miss that camera actually." And so I was just scrolling on eBay about a week ago, and somebody was selling the entire complete kit. Like, it just came off the shelf in 1971. It has the flash in it. It has the 50 millimeter. It's got the lens. It's got the regular lens. I'm like, and it was $100. So I got this camera. It got mailed to me, and I'm like, you don't know what this has done for me. I carried my camera around the world. I don't know how many times taking photographs, because I was really into 35, black and white and in color. And now my daughter is going to experience that. So it was really neat to look down and see, okay, let me hook the aperture up and the f-stop, and because you got to manually do everything.
you got to be a real life photographer to do that.
Oh yeah,
We've got these automatic cameras now that
oh,
do a lot of the. Well,
everybody's automatic.
even on your phone, best camera in the world, and you got it right on your phone. So
Yeah, everybody nowadays. I mean, I remember I got out of 35 millimeter when I went to Iraq. I hauled this 5-pound camera with me over there, and right before we left, I bought a little tiny digital camera that was about this big and cost an arm and a leg. But it was so easy to take photos and email them back to Teresa. A photo's worth 1,000 words. So taking those pictures and being able to every day kind of download and send photos to my wife, I got out. I literally stopped taking photos with the Canon, and I wish I hadn't, because everything was moving towards digital. And then I got the Canon EOS or whatever it was, Rebel or something, digital camera that I hardly ever use because everybody uses a phone now. But yeah, I will have to get her hooked up with you, because
yeah,
you are, in my mind, the premier guy to take photos. And as a matter of fact, the best picture of my buddy Michael Costanza that is out there was taken by you. We were out in the town square. We had the fox, we had the tank, and you took a picture. There were two pictures you took of Michael, and Michael had like a neck gaiter on, had a hat on, and he was looking at somebody else. And you snapped this photo of him, and then there was a picture of him just patiently sitting inside the fair waiting to drive somebody.
I
And you
think
had,
for the parade, maybe. Was it at the parade?
yeah, it was at the parade, the
Yeah.
one photo. But those are the best pictures I've ever seen of Michael. And you took a photo of me at a car show that I use as my
Oh,
profile
yeah,
picture a
that's
lot.
right.
I had
Yeah.
my arms crossed. I had a flight jacket on. I was in front of
Yeah.
my ferret, and that's one of my favorite photos as well. So thank you so much for what you
Well,
do.
you're one of my favorite photos that I took was you and Carmen Giese at Wayside Middle School, and you were interviewing Carmen. And
Yes.
I I love that picture of the two of you. So,
Yeah. Yeah. God, I miss that guy.
well, I
Yeah,
do too.
boy, that would have just been awesome if we could have had him on the trip.
Absolutely.
Well, I've gotten off subject. Any other questions about the original story, the Normandy that you wanted?
No, you did a great job. Absolutely a great job. We've got here's a few comments from Doug
Hey,
Peterson.
Doug. There's Doug.
We're
Another
gonna
great.
have him on the podcast with some other helicopter crew members from Vietnam.
Uh-huh.
They're working on a project, and they've gone to D.C. to visit 3 or 4 times. I think Doug's been up there 3 times, trying to get a bill passed. So
Oh,
it's
that's
going to
awesome.
be
Yeah, he
interesting
has.
and we might slide them over to your podcast too, so you can help them get some more traction up there in Washington. So.
Oh, hell yeah. In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
And then Miriam Hinks, I was at the interview with uh, David Bellavia, and gave Randy a quilt to get to him. So,
Oh, that interview over at American Airlines. Yeah.
yeah, that was a
Yeah,
good book
David.
signing.
Yeah,
And then
David
we've got
is
Terry,
incredible.
our friend Terry Burgess.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Terry. Captures a moment in time, just not the photo. It's not staged. It is
Yeah.
as candid as I'm waving my scissors around. Don't run with scissors in your hand. It is as candid
Yeah.
as you can get, and that's what I love
Yeah.
about your photography. And I don't know if you do filters or whatever, but your pictures are beautiful.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you.
it's like that one that he captured. That is one of my absolute favorites of David Green holding Barney Baker up, so that he just wanted to salute. He wanted to stand for the national anthem.
Yeah.
Just a week or two before Barney died.
Yes,
I mean,
and Rick that was one of those. We got people that want to stomp on the flag and burn it and everything else, and that flag meant so much to this man that he couldn't stand on his own any longer. But it was so important to him that a fellow veteran that took him everywhere picked him up and literally held him. David was saluting, Barney was standing and saluting. That is absolutely one of my favorite pictures that Rick captured, which was absolutely that. It was a moment in time. It said so much.
Yeah.
I mean, you could write a whole story about what that picture said.
And with Terry making a comment on here, we can't think about Terry that we don't think about Brian Burgess, his son, is killed in action in March of 2011, because Terry, went through a lot of depression after Brian was killed, and just went to the very bottom. And now he's helping other Gold Star parents across the country go through the process of losing a child. So, Terry, we love you so much.
Yes,
Yep.
we do.
Terry,
Never forget Brian.
yeah, you guys are doing God's work for sure. Love it.
Well, Tall Tales with Taco. Here's the Facebook page right there, facebook.com.
Yeah,
Tuesday.
Today's Tuesday. I had a PJ, LD Jeffers, lined up to talk tonight, and unfortunately, his wife Kelly, her mom, died just yesterday. So they've got to go drive up to be with the family, and so I thought, you know what? Maybe tonight I'll just talk about Normandy and throw a bunch of pictures up as well. So kind of talk about that trip, because that was a fascinating. There was so much more. There's so much more I could talk about. There, and when you have the people they're interviewed, they interview them and they do medical checks on them to find out, make sure this guy doesn't have dementia and is going to wander off or whatever. But we had this one fellow that had no family, and he invited this guy that runs a gym to be his guest. And it was so fun. So funny because this guy ends up on a viral video of him assisting his guy Bill up to the ocean and bend down, touch the water at the beach, and it kind of like went viral. Well, this guy literally, he just enjoys walking around in a pair of boxers, like Hanes boxers, and little slippers, and a wife beater shirt. And the first time I saw him, I thought, "Oh my God, this guy must have given his pants to the veteran. Maybe he had an accident or something." And he's literally walking through the airport in a pair of boxer briefs, like you buy Hanes or something, plaid, and a pair of little fuzzy slipper like
Oh my.
slippers, and a V-neck T-shirt.
Yeah,
And
I haven't ever
he's
seen that. Not even in Walmart,
no, and he's a big dude too. Like, he owns his gym. He's a big guy, bald, got a beard. And I thought, man, this guy's son is really kind of pushing it. And so we're at the American Cemetery in Paris. He's wearing this little outfit, and I thought, well, that's kind of really inappropriate here. Um, so I go up and I say something to him, and I go, "Hey, do me a favor. When we go to the National Cemetery, please, please, I know you have a pair of pants. Please wear a pair of trousers to that event, okay?" Like, "Who are you?" I'm like, I'm Mitch Bell. "Well, who are you to tell me that I got to wear pants?" And I'm like, "You know what? I'm a Marine. I'm just telling you, it's disrespectful to wear your little boxers." He would wear boxers with a fanny pack around the front, so he didn't blow in the wind, I guess. But just you get some very interesting people. He wore pants to the cemetery, so that was a plus. But wore boxers the rest of the time. You're just like,
Mm.
really? I mean,
Well, at
I
least
gotta.
he listened to you, right?
Yeah,
That,
he listened to me for that one event, because it just
That's good.
it is for that place. You have to have some respect, and
yeah, yeah,
amount of decorum is expected. I mean, everybody was really dressed to the nines out there in respect and for all those veterans. Um,
yeah, as it should
it
be.
is as it should be, exactly. And I tell you what, if you're going to be going next year, as you walk through the rows of crosses, you just can't help think all of these kids were 17, 18 years old who died. And I can't imagine the courage that they must have mustered to know that they were going to die. You have to accept the fact you're going to die in certain situations. There's no hope to live, because if you have hope to live, then you'll make mistakes. I think those kids had to have a certain amount of um, knowledge that they weren't going to make it. And could you imagine the kids nowadays, the ones burning our flags and the ones doing the demonstrations? Not to get political, it really frustrates me to see the course of America going, when I just visited a country that has more American flags in it that would beat somebody up for ripping an American flag down than our own country that would burn a flag just to you know make a point about something they know nothing about. It's just amazing.
Amen.
So
That's
so
right.
the youth of yesteryear definitely are the giants that we stand on their shoulders. When we say that, that is so true, and I'm sure those guys felt the exact same way about the World War I vets and what they went through. because there was still some World War I vets and World War II who were able to tell them what it was like. And then
Absolutely.
and then the young kids that missed World War II and were in Korea, their own hellish nightmare, also had the benefit of having some older veterans from World War II be able to talk about, well, it's kind of similar to us fighting the Japanese. This was very similar, and then you get into Vietnam, and those guys probably had some older Korean vets.
Like
But
General Kerry. General
Right.
Kerry was in Korea and Vietnam.
yeah, he actually, if I remember right, he started in World War II right at the tail end. He was also in Korea, Silver Star, and then the evacuation of Saigon as a general. So amazing guy. But I don't think there was as many Korean vets that would be over there like it
Yep.
was the World War II vets in Korea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, Mitch, our
General
time.
Kerry was General Kerry was at the event for the Korea War vets that we went to on Friday night. So he was there. New Korea War vet that will be joining us on Friday, Harry Thompson. He was at the Chosin Reservoir. I've talked to him a few times, been trying to get him to come to the lunch since he moved here, and he lives there in Westworth Village. So
Yeah.
he's finally on the books to come this Friday. So some new friends we're gonna get.
And
Yeah.
this Friday we're going to have Liberty.
Yes.
Liberty Phillips with Bridge to History. She's going to be our speaker, and she's going to bring some of her ambassadors, the young children that she's taken to London and Normandy for her Bridge to History program. So they're going to be there.
I absolutely love that family.
They are good, aren't they?
You know what? Those three girls, if my daughters could be a tenth of what those young ladies are, then I've succeeded as a father. And I ran into her dad over in St. Mary-Galise, and he was interviewing people, and he was outside the fence, and he goes, hey, could I ask you some questions? And I looked at his name tag, and I'm like, you have a daughter? you have a daughter named Faith and Liberty? And he's like, oh yeah, those are my girls, And I'm like, as a dad, can I tell you that you and your wife are the best parents ever, and that you have raised the best kids. There is absolutely nothing those girls would not do for a veteran, and what they've done in the past and what they're doing now to continue the education. I'm like, you guys are the best in the world, man. Thank you so much. So you're going to love that. I interviewed her with one of her kids, and it's just fascinating what they're doing. And
Absolutely. And I think she did 3 jumps in Normandy, and
yes,
Faith did at least 2, maybe she did the 3. But whenever they jumped with their jumpsuit, but they also had a dress on, because that's the way the women dress, because they dress they'd be all dressed up, jump in, take that off so they could kind of blend in with the locals. So
that is amazing. Yeah,
it's going to be a great show.
Yeah, you have to get her to send a bunch of photos. She has some awesome pictures of her with the C-47s and in the training for the jump. Yeah.
But she'll be at roll call, and thanks to American Airlines, she's going to be able to bring some of the young guys over to roll call, so they can be with our veterans. So
unfortunately, I have to work, or I'd be there. But
but American Airlines, because of the generosity and the sponsorship that American Airlines has provided to roll call, we're able to fly in 3 of the young people and 3 of their parents from California. And Liberty said, a lot of times those guys don't get to come to these kind of things because nobody can afford to do that trip to get them over here, and they don't get to participate as much. So we're working a lot with Bridge to History to make sure that we can get these young people to do, what the whole plan is to teach the young people the important lessons of the past. So we're thrilled that we have those miles that we're able to bring them to the luncheon to share with our veterans what's happening out there today.
You need, Randy doesn't do enough PR. You need to get Randy out there to speak. Have you had him?
No.
We have not. He's a tough guy to get a hold of anyway.
Yeah, he
I
is.
bet Mitchell Bell can get a hold of him.
I could probably con Randy into coming out. He would be phenomenal. He's such a modest guy about all the stuff he does, and he's a one man band. He literally, it's him, Maria, and he has Thomas
Yeah.
is a intern, and that guy's. My brain would be fried. All the stuff that he does and
Just to be
processes.
able to coordinate it all.
Yeah,
All the
yeah, he's amazing,
coordination.
amazing guy, and he motivates us. And we have a core group of veteran, Glenn Williams, um, Mike Boynton, all these guys. We get in there, and um, yeah, it's a great time. Neil Raz, um, just good times. And Neil Raz, you guys need to get Neil. He's probably one of the most incredible speakers out there, and he has a 1943 biplane Stearman.
Is a Stearman, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Ernie LaCroix might have done a flight with him a couple of years ago.
Yes. He's always
because he tries to take vets. So
yeah, I'll get you hooked up with him. You need to go fly with him.
Okay.
Take some pictures. All right. Well, Mary, hey, Rick, Mary, thank you so much for allowing me to come on. And I'm sorry I went over your allotted time.
Well,
but
that's okay. That's okay. We appreciate you being on, and you're a great American, a great friend, and you do so much for our veteran community and our military community. You're involved in so much. The DFW Metroplex Marines, the 100 Vets That Give a Damn, and I don't know all the other things you're involved in, but you pour it out all the time, all around the world. So.
Yeah, I try. Like I told Teresa, the reason I came home whole, I feel like, and if I can give back, that's my honor to do that, because there were a lot of people that did not come back from Iraq or Afghanistan whole, and we got to take care of all of them. So
I got to get a shout out to your parents, John and Mary. They are incredible people, especially to put up with you all these years. But your mother's told me some stories about, and we'll talk about that another time, about the maps, and whenever you lived in Virginia and had all the maps, and your dad said throw them away, and she said no, she took them out.
Yeah, I did. I found we grew up on a military base, and Navy amphibious base, and had all the Navy SEALs and everybody, and all the Marines were there for the transport ships. And I found all these World War II and 1930s. They were 1930s and 1940s topographical maps of the entire Tidewater, Virginia, North Carolina area. And they were throwing them away, and they were colorful maps. They're really pretty. So I grabbed a whole armful, and I go, man, these are really cool. Like, I could put them on the wall in my room. And my dad's like, where'd you get that? From the dumpster behind whatever. And he's like, you get on your bike, take that crap back, and throw it away. And so I go out. My mom runs out the front of the house and is like, give me those maps. Where'd you get them? Oh, from behind the base movie theater where they have the school. And she's like, here, give me those. And she puts them in the trunk of the car, and she goes, go back. Were there more? And I said, oh yeah, the whole thing's full of them. She goes, go back and get as many as you can. And she came back and gave them to the DAR, because it showed all of the family cemeteries, and the Revolutionary War and Civil War cemeteries were plotted on these maps, these old maps. And so they were using those to actually go out in the middle of the woods and find, we'd go out and find an old cemetery. It was amazing that they were forgotten. These cemeteries were just lost. Headstones were falling over, things like that. Mm-hmm. My mom, you're right. She's put up with a lot of crap. I brought a girl home from college once, and I told the girl, I go, hey, look, my parents are great, but just understand that my mom is pretty much stone deaf. So my dad yells at my mom, and she yells at him. So he yells because she can't hear. So you have to talk really loud. And then I brought her home, and I told my parents that she was deaf, and you had to talk really loud so she could hear what you're
Oh
saying. So
no.
we're all there, and we're there for about 5 minutes with them all yelling. I mean, yelling at the top of their lungs at everyone, and I'm talking in normal voice. And finally, my dad goes, "Hey, wait a minute, son. Why are you talking normal?" And she
Oh,
looked at me, and goes, "Wait a minute, you can hear me?" And my mom's like, "Yeah, of course I can hear you." Yeah, that I got in trouble for that one. That
I
was good.
bet.
As you should.
Well,
Yeah,
Mitch, thank you so much for being on today.
you bet.
Yeah,
You guys
look
have a great
forward
day.
to when our paths cross again. Maybe we'll go take a ride in your Fox.
No, I sold the Fox. I've
Oh,
got
did
8
you?
Hummers. Yeah, we got 8 Hummers now.
8
We started.
Hummers. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, we
Well, I'll have
started.
to go for a ride in there. It won't be
Yeah,
the same as going through Chick-fil-A's drive-through, but
no, we got a Hummer. We put 50 and a Hellfire in it, and
well, that'd be cool.
lighting. Yeah, we started a company. It's called Just a Hummer. That's Just a Hummer LLC, and we're gonna take kids to proms and stupid stuff. It's just
That'd be good.
fun. Yeah, it's fun. Well,
Well,
you guys
thanks so
have a great
much.
night, great day, and I will talk to you later.
We'll look forward to hearing you on Tall Tales with Taco.
You bet.
Thank you so much for being
All right,
here.
you bet.
Wow, Mary, that was incredible.
Yeah. It's always Mitch will keep you on your toes. That's for
will.
darn sure. Yeah.
He
So,
will
and
for sure.
we talked about a lot of different things, and I just want to remind folks that tomorrow is the service at DFW National at 10:15 for George Bettis. George was our cartoonist who Captain McLean, when he was the skipper out there, made sure to get him an award. So he got him a medal for work that he had done while he was still serving in the Navy. George was really fabulous, and anyone that's out there that's able to be at his service tomorrow at 10:15 at DFW National. His daughters have flown in from California, and it just would be really good to let's show the love and support to that family for, and for those that can't put a name and a face together. Anytime you saw George, he was typically he looked like Popeye in his white Navy uniform. And he always carried around his sketchbook, and he was working on, with Milburn Taylor's help, our other cartoonist, they were working, or George was working on putting together a kid's book about trafficking to try to help with that problem that we're having today. And then keep Carol Johnson in your prayers. He is in hospice care. He's very, very precious man. Him and his wife have come for quite a long time, and he hasn't been able to come because things have just gone downhill with the Alzheimer's, and that's a horrible thing because as the spouse, you're having to deal with looking at the loss of your loved one, but also they just really can't remember who you are and what's going on, and so just please keep them in your prayers and in your thoughts, and we'll let you know how he progresses. But lots of stuff going on. So we look forward to seeing everybody on Friday. The luncheon is completely full. Like, I'm talking 500 with still 8 people on the wait list full. So we'll send that list out again probably today to make sure that folks check it to make sure you're on it. If you're not on it and you'd like to get on it, we can get you on the wait list if you email us at info@roll-call.org. But right now it is a full lunch, and we will have the Medal of Honor Museum bus out in the parking lot. So that's a little addition that folks might want to make sure that they get there a little early to go take a look at.
That's good. And
Yeah.
And Liberty will be there with her ambassadors, Bridge to History. It'll be a great luncheon. In July, we don't have a luncheon.
Correct.
But we do have a benefit that's going to be, what day is it going to be?
The 20th, Saturday.
It's 20. Okay, it's right there.
It's a Saturday.
The Battling Betties, they're going to have a Beer and Betties fundraiser for Roll Call. It was great last year, and it'll be a good event this year too. Our friend Larry and Larry with Fort Worth Memories, Larry O'Neill, that helped get this podcast started. He's going to have boxing in Cowtown. It's a dinner, and all the old boxers from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even current boxers, have a lot of world champions there, will be at that at Old South Pancake House. And then Roll Call's second annual clay shoot will be Sunday, October the 13th at Defender Outdoors Clay Sport Ranch. And of course, don't forget Al Chatwin and help him go on a trip back to Guam. So a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah, very busy. Very busy.
And Roll Call at roll-call.org. You can go find out more information about a tremendous organization that provides lunch for veterans every month. So just a great organization, and that's how Mary and I met. So we owe a lot to Roll Call.
We do.
And Mitch was a great guest today. He's got, we talked a lot about Normandy, but he's got so many stories about, his travels around the world. I think he said he has gone to 52 countries. So as an American airline pilot, he's well traveled and just friends to thousands of people, because he'll, bring people in the cockpit. One day, these two kids were walking by, little children, and he said, "Hey, come here." And they got up there. He was doing a Facebook Live, and he said, "Go tell the stewardess or the flight attendants, that you want soft drinks and candy and stuff like that, that I said you could have it." So he's a great guy, great friend. So a lot of stuff happening, but this summer, we don't only have great stuff happening, but we have like George Bettis's memorial tomorrow. So we honor the living veterans and those that have passed too. So.
Yes, and we lost Ken Cordier, for those that didn't see that, POW for over 6 years. And his story was just amazing. And when we get service information on Ken, we'll get that out too. I'd imagine that's going to be one full funeral service for the mountain of a man, Ken. He was really something. Yeah.
Well, thank everybody for being part of Hometown Heroes today. And we look forward to seeing you next week on Hometown Heroes podcast. This is Rick Irving and Mary Staffeld, and we will see you next week.